Know me, I'm Ivan Caballero, former lead UX and AI designer at Equinox. I've been working and learning about AI since the fall of 2020, when our team was part of the artificial intelligence department at Access Software. Mm, so what you will see is a mix of literature and concepts I created from my experience in this field. Um, Before we begin, I would like to mention that this is a webinar. This webinar is not about AI tools for design processes like speeding up mockup or generating a poll on ChatGPT. Uh, this instead, we will see how design is applied to the development of AI systems. First, we will explore why design is important for the AI field and how it takes part in the development of these solutions. Then, I will show you some design guides that for me are key when designing for AI. Some of them are for conceptualizing the AI solutions and some others for designing its interface. And finally, I will conclude the session with a set of skills that designers should build up in order to design effectively AI systems. So when we talk about artificial intelligence, we think about robots or tools like Midjourney or ChatGPT, and also in a more subtle way in apps that recognize objects or our face to unlock our cell phones. And all these examples with similar or way too different features leave us with the question, what's actually artificial intelligence? Hopefully, we all know that artificial intelligence is an umbrella that contains a bunch of different techniques that are meant to simulate human cognitive processes. So when we chat with ChatGPT, it gives us the sensation that it can text with us as a human would do. Then we have design, and defining design is complex as defining AI. My mom still thinks that her son is a tremendous illustrator that can draw and have an amazing style, but actually I'm not. And I can blame my mom for having this perspective because also designing has a multiple meaning. And with this field, there are lots of branches. So the meaning I like to give about design is that it is a toolkit that delivers value across a spectrum of complex challenges. And its definition remains wide because design uses a wide variety of techniques to generate an undefined number of answers to improve people's lives in complex situations. Then, if we are assessing AI challenges, we can use design to create solutions at any stage of AI development. So, for example, Galactica is a large language model trained on millions of scientific articles. But in their launch, it generated false and misleading responses. We can see here that when it was asked whether vaccine caused autism, the model gave a contradictory answer. More of these false and misleading responses caused Meta to withdraw at the time. And Andrew NG reacted to the Galactica controversy, in which I highlight that not expressing the boundaries with the Galactica responses and the people's tendency to of following authority figures could end in harmful outcomes. Outcomes that could be better assessed if they had a deep understanding of the people's context and their interactions. And that is what we at Equinox call a lack of design. Why? Because designers are responsible for bringing the user and the product to understand users in order to know how to approach them and give solutions to them. Designers advocate for the user. If the user needs X, then let's ship X. So even if you have a great idea, a designer can help teams to really ship value to people effectively. And this gap issue is very common for regular products, but it gets harder when you are developing AI solutions. And here's why. Think about designing the entire life of your product and consider, let's say, an Starbucks smoothie. You get your smoothie, you drink it, maybe you play with the straw, finally you ended up in throwing your the smoothie into the bin. And this interaction you had with the smoothie was almost a static one. So if you map the smoothie consumption within your lifetime, this type of encounter lasts just a few minutes. But within AI solutions, you are not designing only for that moment, the 0 hour, but you can also design the future and the past of the AI solution. When designing AI solutions, you need to design what will happen between the user and the product after a minute, after an hour, after a day, a week, a month, a year, and on, until the user resigns from the product or when the product dies. And that reciprocity through time is what we call products with a dynamic interaction, like in artificial intelligence. Solutions that are constantly receiving and sending feedback to the user, building its relationship through time, changing constantly because of the other. That's the power of design to shape AI. So, when we develop AI solutions, it is critical for product success to understand people, not just in a specific moment in their lifetime, but in every stage where both the user and the product meet. Because how can we reach success if people cannot use our solution? That's why this session is about the importance of design in every stage of the AI's lifetime within the user. So designing for AI for artificial intelligence is an end-to-end job. For us, AI design is taking the design toolkit to add value to every development stage of an AI system. Now, as you can see, designing AI present a range of new challenges, and those challenges, and for those challenges, I will give you some design guides to keep with you when developing AI systems. So there are design guides for development and design guides for AI interfaces. First, design guides for AI development are guides that our teams need to have in mind when developing the early stages of the AI system. Uh, Please have in mind first the human-computer interaction. HCI is the study of how people interact with computers, and it's important to apply effective HCI principles when developing systems, because it can help to ensure that users accomplish what they need. For example, if a user wants to unlock their phone by using their face, how should be the interaction between the phone and the user be? What if the user wants to unlock the phone by voice? So human-computer interaction also depends on the approach and technology you want to design. Face recognition and voice, sorry, and voice face recognition and recognition are both different and massive universe that are governed by their own laws. So keep in mind that depending on the AI approach, How can you reassure a communicative reciprocity? And as I mentioned before, design AI is about building relationships through time. Then we need to keep in mind that exists a human-computer relationship that needs to be designed. For example, I recently downloaded Grammarly, and the system makes an onboarding in order to set expectation and scope the capability of the tool to build trust. While you are using Grammarly, eventually it gathers the proper data to show your writing performance and how you can improve your skills over time. So these examples let us perceive how the Grammarly team planned to build the human-computer relationship. This concept comes from NAP's relational development model, which shows the dynamics of interpersonal relationships in order to assess the health of an existing relationship or to predict the success of a potential one. So the key stages are initiating, where a collection of first impressions and judgments are made. It influences if each party wants to continue to the next stage. The next one is experimenting, where there's a degree of mutual interests. They start exploring, looking for commonalities of interest. Then there is intensifying, where reciprocal sharing by the other person signals their interest in deepening the relationship. And finally, we have the relationship maintenance state, where both parties are fully partnered and try to keep their relationship. So we can bring back the example of the feedback relationship stages and map them in this graph. So as you can see, the stages of onboarding, the first minutes will be set expectations, and if the user wants to zip into the interaction with the band. The stage of discovery, the user will explore more about the band, matching their interest between the band features. In create habits relationship already has a strong foundation to support the relationship. Sustaining engagement stage will retain user as much as possible. And finally, if the relationship start to coming apart, we can design of the offboarding too. Another thing to have in mind is automation's levels. This is an scale in which we can understand how automated a task or an entire solution is. So depending on what you are building, you need to think about the presence of automation technology and the human in the solution. As you can see in these examples, uh, you could be the autofocus feature in a camera or self-driving cars. From the perspective of the automation levels, in some cases the system will execute automated tasks. In other cases, they need to be performed by human. And it is what we see in this chart, where automation gets relevance depending on the task it needs to be performed. So in the camera, the human need to select explicitly what it needs to be focused, and the camera will take automatically the photograph. In the car, most of the systems are getting info from the path, and it take almost all the driving decisions, but it needs the human to perform them. And that concept could be expanded into the whole service of a solution. As we can see in the self-driving example, we can start to propose how far we can automate solutions. And if you want to understand more about these automation levels, I suggest you to read Hello Human, Hello Machine. It shows 7 automation levels with their examples and a map of its human-machine interactions within the service. The next one is finding the AI unique value. In Equinox, we compare sort of for coding slides of bread with poor AI solutions. Developing AI can be expensive and sometimes misplaced because there are better solutions than AI. So if your team is thinking that AI is the best solution to assess user needs, first ask yourself, are there existing simple solutions? Second, do people enjoy performing the tasks to be automated? Third, AI could hinder human capabilities. And fourth, is there accessibility and quality of data? And then if your answers are no, then your AI could add you a unique value to the users.
This is how you know you're
Mental models help set expectations for what a product can and cannot do, and what kind of value people can expect to get from it. So I will show you a popular example with a hand gesture. You will see.
getting old, and this is for my 70s, 80s, and 90s babies. Watch. All right, babe, pretend you're talking on the phone. What would be your hand gesture? This? Yes. Pretend you're talking on the phone. What would be your hand gesture? Yes. Papa, yeah. Pretend you're talking on the phone. What would be your hand gesture? Like this? Yes. So all of us would go like this. But now the new generation goes like this.
So as I mentioned, this is a very effective example because since younger people may not have the opportunity to use like a classic phone, the one with the cable, they have different representation of the hand gesture from older people. So this is yeah an example of what a mental model is, and having this understanding of your user gives you certainty about developing the right AI solution. Another thing is fairness and is important in AI because AI systems are increasingly being used to make decisions that impact people's lives. Remember that at the beginning of this session, we talked about Galactica. People who blindly trust these tools may be harmed. Some years ago, Amazon had an AI recruitment tool that showed bias against women. Unfairness is not just being inclusive with people, but being negligent with data can train a biased AI that will be prone to make mistakes, for example, in self-driving cars. So fairness is about being inclusive with people, but also with the data.
In the 148 images I generated, Midjourney depicted an autistic person as being female presenting twice, as older than 30, 5 times, as white 100% of the time, and 0 were smiling. In the one
Another thing is having transparency in user data usage is important for ensuring that AI systems are designed in a way that respects the privacy and autonomy of the users, and for ensuring that companies comply with relevant data protection regulations and don't take advantage of people. Even today, it's hard to find AI systems that can explicitly explain to users how their data is being stored and managed to improve the system or their services. Also, because people don't have a data privacy culture. So, AI development teams are responsible to guide people in this field. A good exercise to start seeing what could our AIC solutions cause to people is thinking about possible scenarios that could come up. Thinking about intended and unintended consequences will expand the development team vision and take action prior it's too late. For example, last year a Tesla car went out of control in China and it crashed pedestrians, killing two people. If we were designing for a Tesla self-driving car, we could think about the possibility of losing control of the vehicle. So for this case, how we could help the user to take control again. There are some cards on internet that could help you in this exercise of thinking the unintended consequences of our systems. I like to recommend the Tarot Cards of Tech because it has interesting questions that will let your team think ahead. And now we have the design guides for AI interfaces. The following guides will help your AI solution to be better received and facilitate the human-machine relationship. As I mentioned before, to start building a relationship with the user and explain the real scope of the AI solution is setting expectations. Explain what it can do, what it cannot do, how it may change, or how to improve its outcomes. For example, the Snapchat app has a chatbot called My AI. Before you can chat with it, this pop-up appears and explain what it is. I highlight the part of the text that says that the chatbot should not be entirely trustworthy because it may not always be successful with its responses. So as a user, you are told beforehand what to do and what to expect from this interaction. And here you can see what my AI is telling me. And I asked what the chat can do, expecting that it may onboard me again, but it didn't occur. So as a designer, I may think of more ways to set expectations and don't rely just on a pop-up that people may don't read at all. Another thing is feedback is a crucial feature for machine learning solutions. But what I would like to highlight here is how to communicate to the user that we are getting feedback from them and how they could improve the system outcomes. As an example, I use the ad preference setting to set what I would like to be presented during my YouTube usage, and it took into account my feedback immediately. So here I put in the settings that I would like to see ads about schools, about language, and here the system immediately gives me that. And at Google's People plus AI guidebook, they show these examples of a fictional running app in which it shows how to effectively gather and communicate feedback, where it is not just telling people that the system receives the feedback, but they already taking into account that feedback, updating their preferences. And as you may know, feedback can be gathered also in an implicit way, like in Spotify, here where our music consumption will create weekly playlist of new music. Your interaction with the platform is the feedback the platform is receiving. Design for less choice is going ahead to the user, anticipating or predicting their behavior and the outcomes users want to achieve. You can see it when you write in your fonts. Here is an example of when I was texting, and it shows like recommendation words. Another useful guide is to try to get minimal input from the user to get a valuable outcome. And with machine learning, the systems can be more accurate over time. And an example is what Netflix does when you are setting for the first time your user profile. It asks you to choose some content in order to have a first glance at what you may like to watch on the platform. And finally, I have here humanizing a system
This is a fart.
that is really useful if you're developing a virtual assistant or chatbots.
My name, your Google Assistant. My mission, to assist you. My favorite color, probably blue, but it changes sometimes.
So here it works because these tools are meant to give us the illusion that we are talking to an actual human. Then it makes sense to humanize the interaction to boost the relationships and facilitate the interaction. Finally, I would like to end this webinar by sharing with you a set of skills and a designer should start building to be prominent in designing AI solutions. These skill sets were proposed in the article Design for AI, um, written by Hal Wertz. She is the design principal and design director at IBM. The first is that a designer should have a technical understanding on AI technology. They should know enough to be able to influence the development of AI and to be held accountable for how AI is used. So the designer should explain the basics of how machine learning works, explain data engineering concept as data collection or data cleaning, and explain AI techniques as NLP or computer vision. Also, AI designers should understand the ethical standards and pitfalls of building accountable, fair, transparent, and trustworthy AI. They should have the ability to establish and maintain ethical practices for a team and should be able to integrate ethical thinking into the everyday design and development process. Then the AI designer should integrate ethics resources into the team process, explain the general data protection regulation and how they affect the deliverables. Designers should tell real world stories about human impacts of unethical design decisions and ask key questions to uncover risk for people with diverse abilities. An AI designer also should be collaborative and facilitate collaboration across diverse stakeholders in the delivery of an AI. So AI designers should participate in the generation of a shared vision across a multidisciplinary team, participate in the end-to-end AI development process, explain how data is collected, cleaned, and added to a model, and facilitate design thinking activities and use relevant design thinking exercise to meet AI goals. AI designers should be able to craft and articulate a user-focused strategy for AI development and articulate common AI use cases from businesses and user points of view in order to communicate the value of AI. Then an AI designer should explain barriers to AI adoption, describe real-life use cases to help explain AI opportunities, explain the AI ladder or the journey to AI success, and explain data and AI tools and services. And finally, AI designers are responsible for the iterative and dynamic relationship between humans and AI solutions. AI designers make the outputs of an AI model consumable so humans have insight into a machine's evolving reasoning and results. Then AI designers should translate AI outputs into valuable pieces of information for humans, leverage and reuse existing AI patterns effectively and appropriately, prototype and test AI solutions, and communicate to humans common concepts in the AI lifetime. So Hall established these five key skill sets to finally settle a growing pathway for designers who wants to design AI solutions. And for me, it was very important to have this article because it was the first time I see in 3 years that someone proposed a defined pathway to become an AI designer. So that's it. I hope my design colleagues can take this webinar and use it as a source of guidelines that may help you design AI solutions, and to my engineer partners understand better why design is important in the field. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ivan. It was such an interesting session. Thank you, everyone who was the whole session listening to him, and see you the next time. Bye bye.